Speakers, publishers, consultants, coaches, and info marketers unite. The Speaking of Wealth Show is your roadmap to success and significance. Learn the latest tools, technologies, and tactics to get more bookings, sell more products, and attract more clients. If you're looking to increase your direct response sales, create a big-time personal brand, and become the go-to guru, the Speaking of Wealth Show is for you. Here's your host, Jason Hartman.
It's my pleasure to welcome George Foreman III, otherwise known as Monk. He is an entrepreneur, professional boxer, trainer, coach, founder of EverybodyFights, and that is a gym with 5 locations now. And he's the son of businessman and former 2-time heavyweight champion George Foreman. He serves as a business manager and executive VP of his father's business empire. That's called George Foreman Enterprises, and has also starred on E! Network's reality series Filthy Rich Cattle Drive. George, welcome. How you doing?
Doing great, and really happy to be with you.
It's good to have you on, and you're coming to us from Boston. Is that correct?
That's right.
Good stuff. You are building out a system of gyms entitled Everybody Fights. I guess the original name was The Club by George Foreman III, right? But you changed it?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep, it was The Club by George Foreman III. No one would let me sign a lease with the name Fight Club. That was the original name. So I took off the Fight, just called it The Club by GF3.
Hey, Fight Club is a great movie, by the way.
Awesome movie.
A really surprisingly brilliant movie. I never expected it. You know, get past the violence, and that's an incredible movie. It really is. Why did you leave your career in boxing to pursue fitness entrepreneurship?
You know, one of the things that happened was early on, I started boxing. My dad said that if I wanted to actually compete, that he had to train me. And then he took it a step further and he said, if I'm going to train you, you need to train other people. You must train other people. We had a youth and community center. And I said, Dad, I don't know anything. To which he replied, don't worry, just teach them whatever I taught you that day. And what that turned into is I would spend triple the amount of time training other people throughout the day than I would during my training sessions with my father as my trainer. And I developed a passion for it. And after 6 years of no less than 6 to 7 hours a day of training people, you start to think you're pretty good. And I realized that if this was my passion and I could keep a roof over my head doing this, that's what I needed to do. And so I put down the sport, ventured out to see if I could create a business teaching boxing.
It's a pretty innovative model, right? I mean, tell us what's unique about Everybody Fights.
I think there's 3 things that are unique about Everybody Fights. Number one is it's authentic. There's many different fitness concepts that allow you to do some element of boxing. I mean, even running is considered part of boxing training. But throwing punches to hit a bag or throwing punches in the wind, that's a piece of it. Throwing punches is a piece of a lot of sports, to be honest. But to teach the sport and the training style authentically, we're the only place you can do that, to my knowledge, outside of just going to a regular boxing gym with real fighters. But if you want to go to a luxury fitness club with proper programming, luxury amenities, class schedule, an app where you can book classes and get the authentic boxing experience, I think we're the only ones currently. That took some brain surgery, by the way.
It seems like the vision that comes to my mind when I think of a boxing gym, I mean, of course I've been to like kickboxing classes, but the image that comes to my mind with real boxing is, maybe something you see in the movies, right? Where it's like a grungy gym and there's some sweaty guys and they're punching a bag. Your model is different, right?
It's real. And so what really happens is, as with anything, it's not what happens in the movies. My father trained me for maybe 8 weeks before we even stepped inside the actual physical boxing gym. Then we didn't hit the bag. We shadow boxed. And then we skipped rope. Then we did sit-ups. And then one day he puts wraps in my hand and he says, okay, now you can hit the bag because you know what you're doing. And so all those things are very authentic to boxing. And we look to bring that in a way people can consume. And so the way we did it was, instead of one class, we have 4 types of classes, 4 classrooms. If you come 4 times a week, you can take your time and train like a boxer and actually learn it the right way. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is the value proposition, or actually the layout. I'll put it that way. 4 studios under one roof. What that allows us to do is process up to 200 people per hour in the facility, all taking classes. And what that also allows us to do is allow those 4 studios to share the amenity of the locker room, which now I can make a lot bigger than the average boutique, with showers, steam rooms, etc. I can afford a juice bar. I can afford physical therapy because I have 4 studios underwriting the costs. And then lastly, because the number 3 is the value prop, in my opinion, is the fact that if I can process 200 people per hour at peak time, I don't need to effectively average $25 to $30 a visit, which is what my competitors do. Mm-hmm. I can average $12 a visit and still be profitable. And that, to me, is the proper way to provide fitness to people, make it affordable, and yet still premium. And so those are the 3 things that make us unique, in my opinion.
Yeah, business model is such an important component of success. In the businesses I've owned, so much, I'd say it's like 80%, what is the model of it? And your model's great. That's a really good model. So it's less expensive for the consumer. It's better for the company. But I would assume the hard part is getting near capacity of 200 people coming through there every hour. I mean, of course, you don't do that at all hours of the day, I'm sure. But what about the marketing to fill the gym?
I told my trainers when I first started with my group, and this is still what I tell them today, there's a few different ways this can happen. I can spend money on marketing outside the 4 walls, advertising, and then we have to sit down and evaluate our cost per user acquisition cost per user. Then, optimize that. And there's a way we can do that, and that's going to cost money. Or you can be the best and say, hey, every person that walks through this door is going to result in another 10 to 15 people walking in this door. And if you're the best, I'll pay you. And that's the attitude since day one. And it's forced us also to make sure that because we're not investing in these massive marketing budgets and advertising budgets, we're investing in training our people and taking our time and also investing that time in people who have great personalities and are good people and are doing it for the right reason, as opposed to trying to accelerate the timeline of training and hiring based on credential. So that's where our marketing advertising budget is. It's a longer play. Maybe takes, a year and a half to 2 to ramp up a facility, but it's a more sustainable play and it's a lot more fun.
Yeah. The idea of fitness classes has really just been booming. At least that's what it feels like to me as a consumer versus how it was years ago. Classes are very popular in all different types of things, whether it be yoga, Pilates, boxing, whatever, right? And also Orange Theory, that'd be another one that's sort of interesting model. Why do you think that is? And then I want to ask you a question about boxing in particular.
I think 2 things. I think there's nothing better than walking into a full-service fitness club. And I think there was a boom in the 90s and early 2000s, and some of the fitness clubs, number 1, got lazy. And number 2, they invested more in facility and amenity than they did talent to engage with people. And something happened around 2001 plus minus, and this thing called Insanity came on, P90X and Zumba. And all of a sudden it became cool to have fun for fitness and also to work hard. So I think, in my opinion, that's what's driven the needle, moved the needle. And made it where this idea of taking a class was more applicable.
Yeah, interesting. So who is your target audience? I mean, are they people that would normally do a typical kickboxing class, or are they people that really want to fight and really box, or is it for fitness purposes, or is it a blend of the 2?
I would say that our customer is someone who wants to have fun and get a good workout, release some stress, and maybe some people who need it for their mind. I mean, a lot of people come to us to lose weight and such, but I think they stay because of the community.
Why boxing? I mean, of course, it's in your family, it's in your blood, if you will, but what's great about boxing as a sport?
Because there's nothing more stress releasing than balling up your fist, throwing your punch, and landing it on a bag. That's, to me, one of the most cathartic things you can do, not just fitness-wise, but just as a human.
Okay, interesting. So get your aggressions out on the bag, not in real life, right? Is that what
Amen.
You're saying?
Amen.
Yeah,
Make you a better family man, better partner in your business.
Yeah, good. Oh, good stuff. Another unique thing you do is these audio classes. Tell us about that.
Well, I think it's important that when people have to travel, life catches up and you have children, but you still want to be connected to your community and you still want to consume content from the people who have gotten you back on the boat. And so I think allowing people to consume our content anywhere in the world is important, but it has to be connected to the 4 walls, what happens in our 4 walls.
Yeah, good stuff. So, everybody listening, George, probably is saying, Jason, ask him something about his dad and what it's like to grow up, under a 2-time heavyweight champion boxer. Tell us a little bit about, your background and family life, if you would.
I would just say, we grew up just like regular kids, and my father was really good about making sure that when he was done doing his work, he came right back home. And if he could take us on the road, he did. That's how we grew up. And generally speaking, we were either at work with him, at school, at church, or at home. So just a regular childhood. There was never a shortage of food, though.
Oh, why do you say there's never a shortage of food? What do you mean by that?
Because he has a big appetite.
Yeah. Well, boxing will give you one, probably, right?
Yep.
Definitely. You've partnered with a real estate executive on this venture. What's the real estate angle or real estate play in your business?
The first thing is, first you have to make sure when you start a company, you have a team, and people need to be an expert at what they do. And a generalist, especially in a startup, be willing to be a generalist, but also be the expert and respected at something that they're better at than everybody else on the team. So I think any venture I've been involved with, that's always been important. With Everybody Fights, knowing that a big part of our business and the success is generated on occupancy costs, choosing a location that's convenient to the consumer, but also negotiating the right deal on rent so that we can make money. And so why not have someone who comes from a construction background, comes from a real estate brokerage background, and by the way, is one of my best friends. So it was just a natural fit.
Yeah, that's handy. Is your model, I assume your model is leasing the space each time, right? Or do you go lease and purchase?
One day we'd like to purchase, but for now we try to focus on what we do best, which is operating fitness facilities, but eventually we would love to purchase.
You've also got a franchise model for Everybody Fights, right? Yeah,
we just started franchising last year, and now we've got 3 open, and we're opening another 15 next year, a minimum of 15 next year.
Will those be outside of Massachusetts, or staying state by state?
I'd say 3 will be in Massachusetts, 2 will be in Southern California, 10 will be in the Utah, Arizona region, Indianapolis region, and then some in the Pennsylvania area. Oh, and then also 3 in the Chicago area.
Yeah, right.
Montreal and upstate New York.
Yeah, you've got it really figured out where your presence needs to be, don't you, in all those flagship locations?
We just follow good operators, people who know what they're doing.
Good stuff. Anything else you want to share with our audience? One thing I'd like to ask you about is maybe some practical tips, like how to box, which is almost impossible to generate on an audio thing. But you talked about the way your dad would train you and then train other people. You started with shadow boxing, no bag, no actual touching. Give us some tips if you would.
I'll tell you right now, just do it. Don't overthink it. No one has ever really hurt themselves doing boxing training, not fighting, but just training, shadow boxing. You can watch a video on YouTube, get your fist up and practice. Get a little punching bag. Learn how to wrap your hands, but just start doing something. That's the number one thing. Number 2, invest some time in maybe a one-on-one lesson once a month, just to sharpen up. But if you can put your feet together like you're going to get in a foot race, spread them apart, bend your knees, put your hands up, tuck in your elbows and relax your shoulders, and extend your hands, just like you're reaching out to shake someone's hands, maybe twist your hips, there's no reason to start boxing. And to be honest, I've seen people who, even in a wheelchair, who can box, you know? So for the most part, everybody can throw a punch. And if you can ball up that hand, just start somewhere and go from there.
Good stuff. George, how much of boxing classes and boxing training, how much of it is considered a self-defense class versus, all of the martial arts studios out there?
Sure. I think, look, there's different levels of everything. Part of defending yourself is staying out of trouble. So self-defense to me starts with listening to your parents or listening to your mentors. Number 2, confidence is a form of self-defense. People don't like to attack confident people. And then number 3, start by learning how to put your hands up and use your limbs to defend yourself. And there's so many different ways to do it. Boxing is just one of the many martial arts.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, hey, wrap it up for us with any closing thoughts and give out your website.
Just make sure to get out there and try boxing. If you need any tips, go to our YouTube page, Everybody Fights, and check us out at EverybodyFights.com. Come into a town near you.
Excellent. George Foreman III, Monk, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.